Hello, I'm David. I'm normally the product manager of the Hermes adapter. Today I'm going to show you our Hermes standard supervisory app, which is currently in development. This is going to be a quick show and tell of the current functionality of it. So over the years, as we've created and released the adapters, the next question we normally get from customers is there any supervisory system software that they can buy off the shelf? And we've always said no. We expected that to be the role of the existing software companies to create and integrate with their existing solutions, but there doesn't seem to be any sort of talk or chitter chatter anywhere of whether they will support it. So we've got to a point now where we're going to develop our own. It's fairly simple functionality, so we've done a lot of the basic functionality already. So I just wanted to show what we've already got and just go through the functionality of what we've done so far. I'm not going to show you how to set it up in this video. That'll be a separate video with the connections. So the main website is this one here. And that's where we will update kind of how we're getting on progress wise. There's a support page which takes you to the GitHub, which will be the place where you will see the functionality changing and the releases. And this is an opportunity for you to submit requests of functionality or play along essentially with the progress. The existing situation is that our adapters allow you to create certain amounts of static Hermes data, inject barcode numbers and things like that at the start of the line, and the adapters are quite often used for the start of line situations. I think a lot of customers have started to create their own supervisory software. Some are relying on board handling manufacturers to provide it also, but there's just a general lack of conversation out there of what to do, which is the obvious first question you're going to have. And so I've been questioned so many times over the few years that we've commissioned it. So so that's the main website. The version you need multiplug 2.2.82.1. At the moment, I'm going to be showing version 18 of the supervisory extension into multiplug, and network sockets 14. Again, this is going to be a scrappy video, and the versions will change by the time you probably see this video, and I'm going to most likely take it down and update it as the time goes on. At the moment, it's an MVP, it's an alpha state, and so unlike the adapters, which aren't really data centric, they're storing data but they're not storing data long term, this is a product that needs to be quite solid, because this is data can't be lost. But the warning is, at the moment, between versions, then there is a likelihood of data to be lost. So just remember that. We need to get the data structures behind the scenes correct. We need to get connections with different types of databases, and that will be an ongoing task. So that the warning is data might be lost. So just be cautious of that. There is options to back up the data between versions. It depends how long you need that data to be stored for. Of course, the idea is to just create the data and get those production lines working and running for the first step. Check the video description below if things do change over time. As I say, I'll probably create new videos, but check the description below of any more information or any changes to this what I say in this video. So the Hermes supervisory channel messages are pretty simple. There's 5 of them. One's based, 3 of them are based upon work orders. That is the record of the the board that is going to be created. And then there's two that are board arrived and board departed, and that gives you an option to track board progress between throughout the line. There's also an opportunity to create some interlocking. Now, remember this: the Hermes standard is a standard; it's not a process standard. So it's very flexible, and I'm sure customers will be guided towards a way of setup, depending on their supplier or depending on who they're listening to. But it is very flexible, and just like our adapters, we've created that flexibility that might not be logical, but essentially for example the interlocking state, if you query for a work order and you don't get any data back, or the data is incorrect, that's an opportunity for a machine to interlock, to stop essentially. So that's a way of stopping a board moving if it's for any reason data's not matched, or there's no data from the supervisory channel, or simply you just want to stop the machine because it shouldn't be accessing or moving any boards at that point of time. So there is an unofficial way of interlocking the movement, but there's nothing to formally sort of. It depends if the machine queries that data for really at that point of time. It depends. It's going to be vendor specific. Our adapters will do exactly that. They will query the work order, and if the data that gets back is different from the board that's just about to enter the machine, it will probably interlock and stop and alerts the operator. So that's the 5 messages that are essentially part of the supervisory channel, and therefore you can see that a lot of customers have created their own solutions, because it's quite simple to create if you have the resource to do that. So again, query work order, the compulsory value is just the machine ID, but then you can inject other query value variables, such as the work order ID that currently loaded onto the machine, batch ID, barcode, magazine ID, and slot ID. So it could just be the machine ID, so what is assigned to that machine at that point of time, and the board data will return at that point. Or it could be, it depends on the barcode, or it depends on the work order that's been loaded. So I'm now going to show you our software, and essentially it's the Hermes data, but we don't want to be recreating bits of it that will be time consuming. So there will be a work order template, and then a work order, and then essentially that is the board. The work order will be multiple values of the board of that type. At any point we can inject counters, so we can change some variables, so work order number for example. We can set a route, which again relies on the machine querying the work order every single stage, but it will update when a board has arrived and what board has departed, and ultimately potentially if it jumps a stage, or if it's gone through the machine twice or something like that, it will flag up that it shouldn't be moving at that point. But again, that is a machine dependent functionality. That is nothing that the Hermes standard itself can maintain. And then there's this planned situation where we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to talk to where you already store this sort of information and just extract it for you. So we would be talking to machine vendors who already have their sort of setup programs, setup functionality. So kind of extracting that data out if they obviously collaborate with us. Also MES systems. again, going back to that, why hasn't the Hermes suppliers got involved? Well, probably likely just to be they're not engaged in it at the moment, but also that they have their own sort of bespoke ways of doing this kind of stuff, and they've been selling that kind of solution for many years now. So it might be because the Hermes is a standard. It's there's no vendor lock-in, but of course it is a standard now, so that this is the future, and they can build upon it. But using them as an external source, but this is where customer feedback is really required at this point, because we don't have domain knowledge of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, but also there's a lot of customers out there that are starting from scratch, so it's a good sort of starting point. So and then there's so that's the work order creation kind of concept. Quite simple, a template, and then you have a work order, then you create so many boards from that work order. Then you have a connection to the machines, and that's quite simple. You have one connection to each machine, but you can also potentially multiplex that connection. If it's a dual lane machine or whatever, it seems logical to have one connection and then share it out, because there's a machine ID. So let me go across what we've already done and give a quick demo. So this is the extension. So this is the extension you'll be looking for. So first of all, let's create some variables. So start with let's say a route sequence. So in this situation, we want it to be conveyor 1, and we want to name it as route 1, and then conveyor 2, and again route 1. This is the point where I'm talking about how the Hermes standard is very flexible, because even though this is a sequence, but you can define what route numbers are. Now obviously the obvious one is lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, but there might be a situation where you're diverting certain boards types to different lanes. So you could have a lane 500, which means start with lane 1 and then move over to another lane or whatever. So it's very flexible. It's just numbers at the end of the day, and we've made sure that it's flexible enough for you to come up with your route IDs and how your machines deal with that. And that's again another situation where the machine builder needs to cater for that level of configuration. So then yes. So that is a route. Didn't name it very well, did I? So let's say route 1. So counters, for example, you might want a work order counter. Current value 1, minimum digits 1, increment blah 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 blah, and then you can increment it per work order. And then we might want another one that says maybe a barcode number. A barcode, again, let's say, yeah, so let's say per board. So now we got a work order and a barcode counters. Let's create some work order templates. So let's say, I don't know, mobile phone, and then we just populate the Hermes information here, really. Product type ID would be the same, maybe. It's not flipped. So let's say the top barcode is barcode barcode and then barcode counter. So length, whatever values you want to put in here. So work order ID, so let's just call it work order, and then we want to make it so there's a number at the end of it, and then the batch ID, again you can leave it or add it in each time. So root will be, we'll leave that blank because we got a root sequence, depending if we want to assign a sequence to it. Again, sequence makes opportunities for interlock, but it also it helps the work order query. So if a machine at some point queries the work order but it's too early, it will get a null value and therefore the machine will error, and the line will stop. So then the operator will have to figure out why it's erroring. So if we just create a root, and that's the template. So now we've done that. So now you can create some work orders. So new work order, we can, again, it's all flexible, so you could just forget about the template and start from scratch if you wanted to, but the template lets us enter in. So that should be all the information we actually need. The root's filled in for us. We want to say, let's say 10 boards, and then we can create it. So that's created 10 boards. And if we go down to work orders, we can see we've got work order 1. So that's that counter in working. So what this area does is allow us to double check that the information, if the machine now queries this information, it will actually come back with the right boards. So if we use, these are all the values that I've showed previously. So if we say, if we just do one, this is one result, and if we say conveyor 1 with work order, we take that away for now, we will get this value, and this will be the value that the machine will get. And we see there's movements, and we can see that this board has not arrived or departed from these machines yet. So that confirms that the value be correct. Now the next stage is actually, I'm going to show it on our adapters. So you can imagine this adapter being connected to a destacker or a conveyor at the start of the line. So we're going to use no barcode values or anything like that. It's just going to say I'm conveyor number 1. Give me my next value. So this is going to be a vendor machine specific kind of operation. So I've set it up so it queries the work order. So I'm going to signal that SMEMA says, so you put the board on the conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt is now saying there's a board there. So SMEMA's gone good board, and on our adapters it's come up with a changeover, product recipe changeover. So at the moment it's got this work order set up. So that's an adapter only sequence, but so let's say we've adjusted the machine, so we continue, and then I'm just looking to my left because downstream machines is now saying the changeover is required also, and now that board is now transporting. Now before we allow it to transport, we just get those values. We can see they've got mobile phone 1 and it's not flipped, and that's all the values that we expect. So let's move that board down. So now it's ready for the next board. So let's go over to the Supervisory software, and if we do that query again, we'll notice that well, actually we'll get the next board, so let's not touch that. But if we go to that board, which is the same as 001, we can see that that's the values that were set, and you can see revisions of those values. So if a machine updates a value, for example, adds a bottom barcode, then it will say there'd be 2 revisions of it. But as we see, movements is now conveyor 1, conveyor 2, and you see the durations and departed and things like that. So let's show what happens. Again, this is really adapter specific functionality, but the concept of, you know, doing a query and when there's no value set up. So let's just delete all those boards. I'm gone. Okay. There's no work orders. So if we do that again, but so just put the board on. Spinbo goes good, board available, and it says the scan station has failed validation. In our software, what you can do in this situation, so we can see this there's an unknown board ID. It has not returned a value, and in our software you can go to Supervisory and then go to the received code, and it says that a board with a work order, so no work order, and the machine ID assignment of conveyor 1 cannot be found. So no board can be found. So that's why that's failed. So at that situation, you would go into the software and work out why this machine hasn't got a lookup. We can delete that. So other things to note, again, this reply work order info, again, this optional Hermes functionality, that sends what the current work order is set up on the machine. So you have a bit of visibility here, active work orders, to show what machines have got what word orders set up, and whether they've accepted and readied them, or whether they've rejected them. And I think that's all. And it's already a long video. I mean, I was intending to make this short. So it's really a request for comment, really. So if you have requested functionality, please either add it to the GitHub issues page, available in that link there. So this page here, which is currently blank. Every time we issue the next version, as we work on it, you see releases down there. It will show what was added last time. If we go to all the releases here, it shows we're trying to give an update of what's happened. Oh, that's another opportunity to show something actually. We also have some line views, which will again develop over time. Not sure whether they'll be useful or not sure, but we'll have some dashboards so you can see what is moving through the machines. Board ID might not be an interesting thing to look at, but maybe the type. But this will change over time, definitely change over time and become more interesting. We're gonna, this one's gonna be designed for a portrait. Though I noticed in the field a lot of these dashboards are landscape, but I think because it's a line, makes sense being portrait, but it'll be flexible anyway. So please, this is a request for comment really. Any issues, feel free to put them in the GitHub issues and I'll sort them through and give replies or whatever. Also, send an email. Please, to keep updated, I'm going to probably start a newsletter. So again, check the description if there's details down there to add yourself to the newsletter. But ultimately, hopefully you can use the GitHub. If you don't have access to it, I will probably be aware of that by now, but hopefully you have access to it. If not, give me an email and I'll enable something or make it public or whatever. So I hope that's a quick, I say quick, it's 26 minutes, a bit longer than I thought. But scrappy email, scrappy video, just to get the message out there that we're working on it and we want your comments, and hopefully this will be helpful to enable your production lines with the Hermes standard. If you have been, thank you for watching.